Hi, I'm Brendan Bushy, and we're about a day away from Trump being inaugurated again. This last week's been real interesting, and I thought I'd just quickly breeze through it. So, outside, the end of last week, we had a snowstorm here, which was over a foot deep. And I thought that was interesting because we usually don't have snowstorms here, but I'm in Delaware. And I spent a good deal of time clearing driveways and walkways and things of that nature. Prior to the snowstorm, I had started reading Capital by Karl Marx. I decided to read all three volumes of Capital, and it's hard reading. Um, I decided to read them simply because I wanted to be better informed on what Marx was writing about, uh, and not rely on other sources or other parties to define what Marx was writing about for me. So far, I can tell you the capital has proved difficult. Um, it's it's economics, it's philosophy, it's he's defining terms. First, I don't know, 150 pages, he's still defining terms, and the language is really, really, really hard to wade through. You have to take your time with it. I'm not going to read this from beginning to end. I already halted reading it because I read something else, and the something else I read was the Communist Manifesto, which was written by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels in 1848, and I read the original version. There's been subsequent versions where they added prefaces to the front of it. But basically, what I got from that is that it was an accurate summary of the evolution of government and economy in Europe going back. Um, it wasn't a roadmap for anything. It was simply an analysis of how the governments evolved in Europe. Um, I think it was dead on accurate, and I think it's only, I think, 45 pages. I think is worth a read. I'm not a communist. Just saying. I just want to be better educated. Um, the other thing that happened this last week is I saw an interview that Leslie Stahl did with Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon's the chairman of JP Morgan Chase. And I thought this was one of the lamest interviews I've seen in a long time. And that's saying something because there are a lot of lame interviews going on. Jamie Dimon took over Chase when near the, I guess, the end of the last century. And Leslie Stahl was mentioning that he grew it to twice its size and like a whiz, right? What she fails to mention is that what happened coincidentally with Jamie taking control was Bill Clinton allowed most of the controls of financial markets and institutions to be removed. When he was president, he allowed them to remove all the safeguards that were put in after the Great Depression. And the other thing that happened after that was 2000, Bush comes in, W. Bush comes in, And eventually he enacts a tax break. And between the two of those, right, it was feast for financial institutions. They were just tearing up the scenery, doing all kinds of things they couldn't do before, and creating a world of woe for us. In fact, it got so bad that at the end of Bush's term, we were on the edge of another Great Depression. They called it the Great Recession. But I don't know that Jamie Dimon did anything in particular as much as Bill Clinton did in allowing controls to be removed, and Bush did with his tax break. Um, the other thing that happened is the second part of on a tax break was when Trump was in there. He initiated yet another tax break, which made the rich even richer. So what happened in that period, starting out with, say, with Bill Clinton coming in, um, was that there were major changes in fiscal policy uh, and monetary policy. There were major changes in our gross domestic product. The majority of our GDP was no longer based upon manufacturing, it was based upon debt. Financial institutions were creating debt, and that was driving the economy, which is driving it into the ground. um, so, but Jamie, he made a couple of interesting comments. Leslie, I think it was Leslie, asked him about Elon Musk being labeled an oligarch, and he said it's just a label. Well, yeah, um, oligarch, plutocrat, autocrat, all of those are labels, but sometimes they actually have meaning. So saying that it was just a label says nothing. The other nothing thing that Jamie Dimon said was that in response to Bitcoin, he said, uh, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. And that's true. And I'm not a fan of Bitcoin at all. Okay. Not a fan of Bitcoin. But Jamie Dimon was dead on accurate. It has no intrinsic value. What Jamie Dimon failed to say, and I think needed to say, was that our currency has no intrinsic value. Our money has no intrinsic value. That's the simple, hard truth. So saying Bitcoin has no intrinsic value implies maybe that our money has intrinsic value when it doesn't. I thought those were interesting. The other thing is Jamie Dimon, when we were in the middle of the Great Recession, um, Jamie Dimon, I think, was influential in damaging two of his competitors, two of the large financial um, institutions. One of them went out of business altogether and just ceased. And the other, Jamie acquired, I believe, quite a bit of stock in. So, not to belabor this, and I don't have it in my notes that I'm looking at here, and I can't recall the names, but Jamie Dimon took advantage of the times. He literally called in the notes on one of his competitors and literally drove it out of business. So I don't know what kind of whiz he was. I don't know. He's a financial predator. The other, and he was being interviewed by everybody, was Leslie Stahl, and then several days just open up a web browser and read the headlines from various news agencies, and Jamie Dimon is talking to everybody about our economy. Um, the other thing in terms of our economy was the hearing, the Senate hearing on Trump's nominee for Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent. Scott is a multi-billionaire, I think. He's a hedge fund manager, I'm pretty sure. And what he said, this is what he said. In reference to the renewing Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which come up for renewal this year, this is what he said about it. This is the single most important economic issue of the day. This is pass fail. If we do not fix these tax cuts, if we do not renew and extend, then we will be facing an economic calamity. I don't think extending the tax cuts for the upper 1% or 1/10% is the most important thing facing our economy or us. What I know is this, that after World War II, because of things like the GI Bill, we grew a middle class in this country. Unions were there. People got educations, people got jobs. We had a burgeoning middle class. And then since that time, we've seen it eroding. We've seen the control of assets go from a larger percent of people to a smaller percent. So the upper 1% or 1/10% control more assets, have more assets than over half our population. And what was the middle class has evaporated. So as the assets of the middle class, not the middle class, of the upper class grew, the assets of the middle class shrunk. Just worth mentioning. And then I guess the final thing, because I don't want to belabor any of this, is I watched Joe Biden's farewell address. And he said this, and I voted for Joe. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. Interesting statement. A lot of people taking him to task on it, but I'm taking him to task on it too, but not because he's so wrong. It's just that he's so wrong. So, our country was founded as an oligarchy. It was based upon the Roman Republic, pre the Roman Empire. And the Roman Republic was an oligarchy, and it was ruled by the Senate. And that's what we've had from day one, pretty much, in this country. And if politicians don't know that, and I suspect that a lot don't know it, that's really sad. Because if you want to run the government, you should know what the government is. Now, what is happening, okay, is we're not moving toward an oligarchy. We already are an oligarchy, but we're moving toward some form of autocracy. That's what's scary. And what we've seen in the last week reinforces that. Trump is not going to suffer any consequences for all the convictions, the felonies he's committed. The judge in New York basically upheld that he committed felonies and decided to impose no penalties on him whatsoever. And I think I read today that in Georgia, that the courts in Georgia have basically decided not to go ahead with prosecuting Trump for election interference in Georgia. And the other thing that happened was the special counsel, I'm going to jam on his name. Oh, well, he resigned this week. And he advocated for two reports that he wrote to come out. He finished the reports, he turned them into the Justice Department, and he wanted them to be released to the public. One had to do with the taking of classified documents, the other had to do with the insurrection that Trump orchestrated back in 2006. Initially, the judge who ruled in one of those cases, on the documents cases, she said he couldn't release them until, I guess, the appeals court came out with a ruling, and I think they did. So it was okay to release them, but I don't know that they have been released just yet. Something has been released. That's on the documents case. On the other, I don't think anything has been released. Not sure. What I am sure is that we did not get a report in the same manner we got a report when Mueller finished his investigation of Trump. Right? We didn't get that. Now, the last time when Mueller's report came out, it was the Democratic Party, really led by Nancy Pelosi, that buried that report, that did not allow Trump to be impeached in the House because of what he did in obstruction of justice. This time around, it was a mix. It was federal judges, it was the Supreme Court, and it was Merrick Garland. We basically have a president, or we're about to have a president, who is not accountable under the law. That's why I think we're headed toward autocracy. He's appointing imbeciles to cabinet positions, all kinds of people. He's appointing people like Musk and Vivaswamy to head up some group about trimming waste in our government. We've not had anything like this. Trump, he is going to dismantle a lot of our government, a lot of things that protect us. I believe, like the Environmental Protection Agency, among others, the Education Department. This is not good. It's not going to keep us safe or safer. It's not going to improve our financial situation. It's just going to mean that wealthy people can do what they want, that governments can do what they want. You need standards. And our standards have never been that good, but they've been a hell of a lot better than they are now, and then they're going to be starting next week. On Trump, I guess I just finish with this is I'm not angry at Donald Trump. Donald Trump, to me, is a person with no redeeming social value. I believe he's a liar. I believe he's a con man. I believe he's betrayed our country. These are my beliefs. I base them on things I've read. I don't base them on Fox News or some nonsense over social media. I base them on books I've read that are credible, in my opinion. I believe he's a sexual predator. He's a con man, and yet he's going to be president. And he's going to be president, and it's going to be, um, first and foremost, it's going to happen because Merrick Garland did not appoint a special counsel the minute he was appointed Attorney General. He waited 2 years. So when the special counsel finally got to complete his report, the elections were over. And then the Justice Department won't allow, and this is not the law, it's just a policy, they will not allow the indictment of a sitting president. They won't allow certain things to happen within a certain period before elections. So Merrick Garland staged this perfectly so that Trump is not accountable now. But that was Merrick. Joe Biden appointed Merrick Garland. So uh, if Merrick Garland was one of the most destructive people in our history, and I believe he was, because I believe what's about to happen to our country would not have happened or would not be about to happen if Merrick Garland had acted properly from the get-go, then Joe Biden has to take some responsibility for appointing Merrick Garland and leaving him in place. The other thing, and I'm angry. I might not appear to be angry, but I'm angry. I'm more angry at all of us collectively, the people of the United States, the citizens of the United States, that we've allowed this to happen. All of it. Not just this last go round, not just these last 10, 20 years. Everything that's been going on after World War II has been a slow move, starting I guess at the end of the 50s or in late 50s, to wrest the country from everyday people, from voters, to shape our perceptions. We've been subjected to a massive propaganda campaign conducted by very, very wealthy people, oligarchs. And we've been dumbed down. We've allowed ourselves to be dumbed down to the point where we actually elected someone like Donald Trump. And look at some of the people he's appointing and trying to appoint. He wanted to appoint Matt Gaetz to Attorney General. That's the only thing that I think so far that he's had to step back from. Gaetz was under, I guess, being sanctioned by the House for sex with underage girls, cocaine, other things. This is where we're at now. We've got Dr. Oz, you know, is up for appointment to a cabinet position. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is appointed to, or up for appointment to a cabinet position. These people have no qualifications, as far as I can tell, to hold the office that they're being appointed to. And the hearings are pathetic too. The hearings are pathetic too. The Democrats, when they're up and they're grilling the people, they're attempting to score points. But no one is questioning the basic competency of any of these people to hold the positions they're being appointed to. That's sad. That should be the highest priority. Is this person competent to head up this agency or this department? And after competency, there should be a question of character. Now, I don't know that the question of affairs and sexual things is the sole criteria for determining whether someone has character. I would think that thievery would be their betrayal of their oaths, their betrayal of um, people they work for or agencies they work for. I would think those were more indicative of character. But we put Trump in. Were we bamboozled? You bet we were. But we are okay with it. We're okay with it. You know, people are, I get emails every day, purportedly from people associated with Trump. They want to sell me Trump things, Trump boots, Trump calendars. I don't know what else, Trump Bibles. When did our presidency get turned over to the hands of a carnival barker? When did that happen? You know, we've never had a president do this kind of stuff before. Never, ever, ever. That's on us. And we've allowed ourselves, and the key word here is allowed. People manipulated us, but we didn't have to be manipulated. We could have grown up a bit over time. We could have read things, researched things, not through things like Fox News or um, Breitbart or any of that stuff, or the New York Post. We could have done our own research. We could have gotten more involved in government. We could have voted. How many of us didn't even vote? We didn't. If you look at our entertainment, and I'm 79 now, and I can go back a long time looking at entertainment. There was a time, actually before I was born, some of my favorite movies were made in the 30s and early 40s. I was born in 46. The They were all about character development. And now our movies are all about action. The plots are mostly mindless. There is no character development because there is no character. Stunts. I don't know. Um, I don't know how that happens, but I do believe that when things like that happen, when the people become less involved, less knowledgeable, that's when you have democracies taken over by thugs. And I don't know that any of those places have ever bounced back on their own. When Germany was taken over by thugs, when the Nazis came to power, and it was the big, wealthy class in Germany that managed to get Hitler out of prison and back into politics and into the position he was in. They thought they could control him, but they couldn't. But when he got into power, he was in power until Allied forces from other countries came in and destroyed Germany. And the German people were like bombed, killed, you name it. There's no one going to come in and rescue the United States. We either rescue ourselves or we go down a path which is not going to be very pleasant. So Joe Biden thank you for your work over the years. I think we're in better shape now than we were when you were first elected, Joe. Um, so thanks for that. But I think you and the rest of the Democrats have contributed to the mess we're in. The Republicans outdid you for sure. I mean, they really, they really screwed things up. But you folks are not, you don't have clean hands. Nobody went after the wealthy. The wealthy were contributing to both parties. Politicians were on the take all along, from the time the country was founded till today. Only now it's totally out of control. And Barack Obama, I voted for you twice. I like you, but you had it all when you first came in and you didn't do anything. You should have gotten the Voting Rights Act renewed. You should have gone for legislative initiatives. You should have turned back things in terms of tax cuts, but I don't think you could because the same people that are benefiting under the Republicans were benefiting under the Democrats. It's a mess. The I don't think it's worthwhile listening to what Donald Trump says. He says all kinds of stupid things. I think it's worthwhile looking and observing, seeing what's happening. I think it's worthwhile getting educated. I think it's worthwhile getting involved. But if you simply get involved by registering in a particular party and going out to vote, that's not enough. One of the problems we have in this country is a two-party system or a party system. Political parties are not healthy things. They don't produce good outcomes. I don't know what else I got. I think that's the whole of it. Um, Happy New Year. The next 4 years should prove to be quite something. Um, I'll talk to you when I talk to you. Take care. Thank you for putting up with me.